"You're no longer our daughter." After taking everything from me, my parents held my funeral. I walked in and said, "It's hard to be dead when you're still breathing." I still remember the exact words my father spat at me that night. "You're no longer our daughter." For years ago, those 6 words changed everything. I never imagined I'd be standing outside a church, watching people mourn my death, while I was very much alive. It started with a family business dispute. My parents built a successful chain of restaurants across 3 states, and I'd worked there since I was 16. After college, I joined full-time, implementing new systems that increased profits by 30%. I thought my parents would be proud. Instead, they felt threatened. The argument that night was about expansion plans. I'd secured investors willing to take us national, but my parents wanted to keep things in the family. When I mentioned I'd already had preliminary meetings, my father exploded. He accused me of betrayal, of trying to steal their legacy. My mother stood silently behind him, her face stone. "You're no longer our daughter," he said, pointing to the door. "Get out and don't come back." I thought he was just angry. I never expected what came next. By morning, I was locked out of all company accounts. My company credit cards were canceled. My apartment, which was in the company name, had an eviction notice. My personal bank account was drained. They were co-signers from when I opened it as a teenager and never removed. My car, technically owned by the company, was reported stolen. Within 48 hours, I had nothing. I called my younger brother, but he said our parents had forbidden contact. My calls to extended family went unanswered. Friends who worked for the family business suddenly couldn't talk to me. It was like I'd been erased. I couch-surfed with college friends for weeks while looking for work. With no references I could use, as my entire work history was with the family business, finding a job was nearly impossible. Eventually, I moved 3 states away and started over with a new name. Not legally, just socially. I found minimum wage work at a diner and rented a tiny room in a shared house. For 3 years, I rebuilt my life piece by piece. I worked my way up to assistant manager. I saved enough for a used car. I made new friends who knew nothing about my past. I even started dating someone. The pain never fully went away, but I was surviving. Then last month, I received a strange message on social media from a distant cousin. "I'm so sorry about what happened. The funeral is Saturday." Confused, I called her. Apparently, my parents had declared me legally dead. They told everyone I'd gone missing while hiking in Colorado 3 years ago. Search parties found nothing, and after the required waiting period, they'd had me declared dead. The funeral was this weekend. I was stunned. Who declares their living daughter dead? What kind of people mourn someone they deliberately pushed away? I debated what to do. Part of me wanted to ignore it. They'd cut me out, so why should I care? But another part needed closure, needed to understand how they could do this. So yesterday, I drove back to my hometown. I wore sunglasses and a hat as I slipped into the back of the church. The place was packed. There were photos of me everywhere, childhood pictures, graduation, family vacations. My parents sat in the front row, accepting condolences, my mother dabbing at tears. My father stood to speak. He talked about his beloved daughter, who was taken too soon. He spoke of regrets and things left unsaid. The hypocrisy made me physically ill. I don't know what came over me. I removed my sunglasses and hat, walked down the aisle, and stopped directly in front of my parents. "It's hard to be dead when you're still breathing," I said. The gasps echoed through the church. My mother fainted. My father turned white as a sheet. My brother dropped the program he was holding. I didn't stay long. I said what I needed to say. That they had thrown me away, that declaring me dead was their final attempt to erase their own guilt, and that I was living proof of their lies. I walked out as whispers erupted behind me. My phone has been blowing up ever since, relatives, old friends, even local news wanting the story. My brother called, crying, saying he'd been told I'd cut contact with the family, not the other way around. I'm back in my apartment now, 3 states away, trying to process everything. Part of me feels vindicated, but mostly I'm sad. Sad that it came to this. Sad that the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally could throw me away so easily, and then lie about it. I don't know what happens next. My brother wants to visit. Some relatives have apologized. My parents haven't reached out. I'm not sure I want them to. What do you do when you've attended your own funeral? Update 1, 1 week later. The aftermath has been surreal. After leaving the church, I drove straight back to my apartment, a 6-hour journey where I alternated between crying and feeling strangely empty. By the time I got home, social media was already buzzing. Someone had recorded my entrance and confrontation on their phone. The video didn't show my face clearly, but it captured my words and my parents' reactions. My brother arrived at my apartment 2 days later. Our reunion was awkward at first. 3 years of separation created a chasm between us. He explained that our parents told him I'd had a mental breakdown after embezzling company funds and had cut contact with the family out of shame. When they found evidence I'd gone hiking in Colorado, he believed them. "I should have looked for you," he kept saying. "I should have known they were lying." He showed me the death certificate, the court documents, everything they'd fabricated. They'd used old hiking photos from my social media as evidence. I was in Colorado. They'd hired a private investigator to give false testimony about searching for me. The level of calculation is chilling. My aunt called yesterday. She admitted she'd had doubts about the hiking story. I was never outdoorsy, but didn't push because my parents seemed so devastated. Now she's horrified by what they did. The family business is suffering. Several longtime customers have pulled their support after hearing rumors about what happened. My parents have gone silent, retreating to their lake house and refusing all contact, even with my brother. I've consulted a lawyer about the death declaration and possible identity theft charges for draining my accounts years ago. He says I have a strong case, but warns that pursuing it means prolonged contact with my parents through the courts. I'm still deciding if it's worth it. For now, I'm focusing on rebuilding relationships with family members who were kept in the dark. Some are genuinely remorseful. Others seem more concerned about the family reputation than my well-being. The strangest part is that some people have reached out asking if I'd be interested in selling my story. A true crime podcast wants to interview me. A publisher suggested a memoir. It feels wrong to profit from this pain, but part of me thinks exposing the truth might help others in similar situations. My boyfriend has been incredibly supportive, though I can tell he's struggling to understand the magnitude of what happened. How do you explain to someone that your parents erased you and then mourned your fictional death? I'm taking things day by day. Some moments I feel strong and vindicated. Others, I'm that terrified 23-year-old again, standing in the rain with nowhere to go. Update 2, 3 months later. Things have escalated beyond anything I could have imagined. 2 weeks after my last update, I received a certified letter from my parents' attorney. Instead of an apology, it was a cease and desist order, demanding I stop spreading falsehoods about them. They claimed I had abandoned the family, and the death declaration was made, in good faith, after years of no contact. My lawyer called it desperate damage control and advised me to keep all documentation. We filed to have the death declaration legally reversed and submitted a formal complaint about the fraudulent testimony used to obtain it. Then came the bombshell. My brother had been going through old company files and discovered the real reason behind our falling out. The expansion plan I'd proposed, the one that triggered my father's rage, would have exposed years of tax fraud. My parents had been significantly underreporting income, and my modernization of the accounting system would have made it impossible to continue. I wasn't disowned for being ambitious. I was removed because I was a threat to their criminal activity. Armed with this information, my lawyer expanded our case to include wrongful termination and financial malfeasance. We also reported the tax issues to the IRS. The response was swift. My parents' attorney reached out proposing a settlement, a significant financial package in exchange for my silence and dropping all claims. They didn't admit wrongdoing but offered what they called compensation for misunderstandings. I refused. This was never about money. 2 weeks ago, federal agents raided the company headquarters and my parents' home. They were arrested on multiple charges of tax evasion, fraud, and filing false reports related to my death declaration. They were released on bail but are facing serious charges. The family business is now in my brother's control temporarily. He's discovered the fraud goes back nearly a decade and involves millions of dollars. Several longtime employees have admitted they knew something was wrong but were afraid to speak up. The most difficult part has been the community reaction. Our family was well respected in our hometown. Some people have rallied around my parents, claiming I'm exaggerating or that I must have done something to deserve being cut off. Others have reached out with support, including former employees who say they witnessed my parents' controlling behavior for years. I've started therapy to process everything. The therapist says what I experienced was a severe form of family abuse, and that my feelings of confusion, anger, and grief are all normal. Some days I feel strong, other days the weight of it all is crushing. My brother and I are slowly rebuilding our relationship. He carries tremendous guilt for believing our parents, but I don't blame him. They were manipulative and convincing. We're talking about potentially rebuilding the business legitimately once the legal issues are resolved, though I'm not sure I want to be involved with anything connected to that part of my life. I've decided to move forward with writing about my experience, not for profit or revenge, but because during this process, I've connected with others who were disowned or erased by family. Their stories echo mine in frightening ways. If sharing what happened to me helps even one person recognize the signs of financial and emotional abuse, it's worth it. My parents still haven't spoken to me directly. According to my brother, they maintain that I'm the one who betrayed the family by going public with private matters. Their inability to acknowledge what they did continues to be the most painful part of all this. As their court date approaches, I'm preparing myself for more difficult days ahead. But for the first time in years, I'm not hiding. I'm not using a different name or looking over my shoulder. I'm reclaiming my identity, the one they tried to erase. I'm alive, I'm healing, and I'm finally being heard. Update 3, 1 year later. It's been exactly 1 year since I walked into my own funeral. Sometimes it feels like yesterday, other times like a lifetime ago. My parents' legal troubles ended with plea deals. My father received a 3-year sentence for tax fraud and filing false documents, of which he's currently serving. My mother got probation and community service as the prosecution believed she was under my father's influence. I don't know if that's true, but her silence that night when he disowned me speaks volumes. The business was sold to cover legal fees and back taxes. My brother and I received small portions of what remained, which felt like blood money at first. After much consideration, I donated my share to organizations that help young adults who've been disowned by their families. I moved back to my hometown 6 months ago. It was a difficult decision, but hiding away felt like letting them win. Some people still whisper when I walk by. Others have been surprisingly kind. My high school English teacher invited me to speak to her students about resilience. The local diner owner, who knew me since childhood, keeps a standing lunch invitation for me every Sunday. My brother and I bought a small cafe together. Nothing like our parents' restaurant empire, just a simple place where people gather for good coffee and conversation. He runs the business side. I handle the menu and customer experience. We're not getting rich, but we're building something honest. I finished writing about my experience, not as a tell-all book, but as a resource for others. A nonprofit that works with estranged family members is publishing it as part of their support materials. The working title is Undead: Reclaiming Your Life After Family Erasure. The process of writing it was both therapeutic and excruciating. My mother sent a letter 3 months ago. It wasn't exactly an apology, more an explanation of how things got out of hand. She claimed they never intended for things to go so far, that one decision led to another until they were trapped in their own lies. She asked if we could talk someday. I haven't responded yet. I'm not sure I ever will. Therapy continues to be essential. I've learned that healing isn't linear. Some days I feel completely at peace, others the anger and hurt come rushing back. My therapist says that's normal, and that complete forgiveness isn't necessary for healing. The most unexpected development has been the community I've found. Other people who've experienced family estrangement or emotional abuse. We have monthly support meetings at the cafe after hours. Hearing their stories reminds me I'm not alone, and seeing some further along in their healing gives me hope. My boyfriend proposed last month. He's been my rock through all of this, never pushing me to reconcile or get over it like some people have. We're planning a small wedding next spring. I won't be inviting my mother, which has caused some controversy among extended family who think I should be the bigger person. But I've learned that boundaries aren't punishment, they're protection. Sometimes I still have nightmares about standing in that church, seeing my own face in the memorial photos. Other times, I dream about the moment I walked down the aisle and reclaimed my existence. My therapist says both dreams are part of processing the trauma. If there's anything I've learned from this ordeal, it's that family isn't just about blood. It's about who stays when you have nothing left to give. It's about who sees your value beyond what you can do for them. It's about unconditional love, not the kind that comes with strings and expectations, but the kind that respects your autonomy and celebrates your growth. I don't know if I'll ever fully understand why my parents went to such extremes. Perhaps they were protecting their financial crimes. Perhaps they couldn't handle losing control. Perhaps, in some twisted way, declaring me dead was easier than admitting they were wrong. What I do know is that I'm no longer defined by their rejection. I'm not the daughter they disowned or the person they declared dead. I'm simply myself, scarred but stronger, cautious but hopeful, legally alive and actually living. And that's enough.